Alright, here we go. Second set. Kurig, Kiaher, Tree, Do, Hain. Okay, this is on Outsider. And I'm sure you remember the Jaedong versus Fantasy Outsider match recently and how well that went for Jaedong. Yeesh. Down here in yellow at the 5 o'clock position is Fantasy. Over there at the 9 o'clock, I believe, was Jaedong in purple. Or teal, whatever. They're pretty much the same color. Teal, purple, I can't tell them apart. Probably have to go to the doctor for that. But, yes, hopefully Jaedong talked this over with his coach after his loss against Fantasy on Outsider in the Pro League Finals. He should have talked it over with his teammates and his coach, saying, okay, what could I have done in this situation? How could I have won this game? Maybe not go for Ultralist, maybe go for all Mutalist, something like that. Give myself a lot of maneuverability or lurkers if I know that Fantasy is now willing to go Medic and Marine like this. Maybe lurkers would be the better idea. So hopefully he worked that out, and he's not going to go for the same strategy again and be completely steamrolled by Fantasy for the second time in 1 week on Outsider. Yes, looks like Jaedong is scouting the wrong direction, getting his Overlord out, though, so it probably means he's going to go for a 12 hatch or an overpull or something like that. He's not going for a 9 pull, no early aggression. And there is a beautiful, beautiful picture of a very effeminate Jaedong. I don't know what's with Asian people and their effeminate male drawings. I think it's only the girls that do the effeminate thing, which is also very weird. The early gas coming up for Fantasies, going for a quick factory to start out with. But you never know if he's going to stay with the factory. That's the great thing about Fantasy's play. He doesn't go for standard play. That's a great thing. That's the reason that Fantasy's doing so well, because he went for standard play. I've seen him talk about this in an interview as well. He said, going for standard play is like wearing someone else's shoes. It just doesn't fit, so I had to go with my own style of play. And because his style is so different, he's really been throwing other players off. And wow, Jaedong is looking somewhat more alert here. In the first game, he was looking pretty tired, like he had only gotten about 3 hours of sleep the night before, which was probably the case. I mean, Jaedong, he wants to win here, so he's probably been practicing all night. Although, Jaedong needs to learn that a good night's rest can sometimes be better than practicing a certain strategy all night long. I mean, StarCraft is a thinking man's game, and if you aren't able to think during the game, it doesn't matter how good your mechanics are if you lose the mind games. So Jaedong putting down his spawning pools, getting his expansion up, and Fantasy did go for that very, very fast factory. So he's going to have vultures out very soon, and he might try to glitch those through minerals or something like that, try to exploit this map a little bit. And Fantasy is being somewhat unpredictable here. Even though he was scouted, he's not going for exactly the same strategy that he went for on the first game of the first round of the Pro League Finals. He's not going straight Medica Marine or anything like that. My guess is he might actually end up switching to a Wraith build. He's mining with a lot of SCVs on that gas, so I think he will probably switch to dual starport or something. It's a much more maneuverable build than a Goliath or something like that kind of build. In Fantasy, he has excellent macro, so he's going to know when to throw down those bases. Here comes the first starport from Fantasy. We'll see if he decides to throw down a second or not. Usually when a player goes dual starports, they end up throwing the starports down at the exact same time so they can get those wraiths out at the same time, reveal them just when there's 2 or 4 out, and that makes it very hard for the Zerg player to fight off. There's the machine shop spinning, probably going to see mines being researched from Fantasy. Either that or he's going for speed so he can sneak his vultures through. See, he did sneak his SCV into the main here, so he's going to get a full scout on everything that Jaedong's up to. Here's a starport pumping a Wraith, so he is actually going for a Wraith build. He's just only committing to one starport, probably saving up minerals for another base, but this isn't a completely all-in dual starport kind of build because I think you know how well his dual starport builds have worked against Jaedong in the past. OSL Finals, anyone? Game 4? Yeah, Jaedong is going to scout that SCV down there and probably know that Fantasy is throwing down his command center. which is kind of unusual that he's throwing it down at his natural, because most other players I've seen have been throwing down, well, except for Zerg players, of course, they've been throwing down their bases at this location, at the mineral only, behind their base. First Wraith coming in for Fantasy, and has some mines all over the place, so Jaedong's not going to be able to do a counterattack. He's going to have to focus on protecting his bases right now, with probably Hydralisk coming up. First Wraith coming in. Yes, there are a few Hydras out for Jaedong. He has his Hydras out here, picking at that Wraith, and he's going to have to hover most of his Overlords around the few Hydras that he's going to get out. Engineering Bay coming up, so Fantasy is prepared for Mutalisk Harass. He's going to be way ahead of any kind of Mutalisk Harass. If, yeah, I think the Mutalisks are pumping right now from Jaedong, and he's coming out. Hero Zergling. I don't think that Zergling took any damage from that mine, so that's absolutely insane. The mine must have been trying to attack the Hydras, but the Zergling ended up taking it down. That is a man Zergling, a manling. And there's the first Wraith going down to Scourge. And wow, Jaedong is getting out a pretty sizable force. This kind of strategy that Fantasy is going for really depends on Jaedong running into those mines. Because besides the mines, Fantasy doesn't have much to fight off the Hydralisk from Jaedong. Jaedong coming in here with very slow Overlords, but he is going to have an Overlord in here soon enough to see the mines. And almost instinctually here, he is knowing that there's a mine there for some reason. Wow, this is just like some kind of weird Zerg star sense. He's coming in, he snipes the mine actually, but he's going to wait for the Overlord anyway. He doesn't want to risk maybe running into a 3-mine trap or something like that that would be dragged into every single Hydra. And here comes Jaedong's Overlord, so he's going to try to inch in with this troop, and hopefully Fantasy is building something up inside of his base. You see, he went for so many Vultures that he's probably not going to have much else. I don't think he has much else. He went for the base as well. He's going for the counter here, but he does not have speed, so those Vultures are going to be very, very picked at here. One Vulture already going down, second Vulture going down. So Fantasy, he only got one Vulture into the base, but that'll probably be enough to get a few drone kills here before Jaedong decides to pull all of his Hydras back. He's pulling every single Hydra back, leaving a few in the field, but yeah. And Jaedong actually fighting with drones because he doesn't have anything else at home. He's going to have to surround this Vulture with drones. But Jaedong losing so many drones here.